Well, 20 years ago, the first mass shooting happened at a high school in our country. Our nation was wondering, how could this happen in our country? Craig Scott was there that day. He was in the school library where 10 students lost their lives, including 2 friends who were right next to him. His sister, Rachel Joy Scott, was the first to be killed and questioned about her faith in her last moments. Now Craig travels the country speaking in schools with his program Value Up, sharing with students about the value of human life and lessons that he learned. Would you please welcome Craig Scott? Thank you, Craig. It's hard for me to believe it's been 20 years since the Columbine shooting. People on either side of you were murdered. I mean, you were right in the middle of 2 of your friends who were both killed. How many times have you said to yourself, why them, not me?
I did experience some survivor's guilt, wondering why I had lived, but I realized that God had a plan for me, had a purpose for me, and He actually spoke to me in the library that day after my friends lost their lives. One of them was drug out from underneath the table and called racial slurs before he lost his life. And then my other friend, Matt. And then right after that happened, I felt that I heard a voice speak to me and tell me to get out of there, and led a group of students out. And shortly after we got out of the library, the 2 shooters came back into the library, started exchanging gunfire with the police, and I realized that we got out of there just in time.
You saved lives that day, but the lives you couldn't save, one of them was your sister, the first one that was killed. And I think the story, which has been told, and I even saw the movie about Rachel, your beautiful sister, was questioned about her faith just before they shot her. And she remained faithful in her testimony and her witness, which I just find remarkable. Tell us about your sister.
Well, her last moments of her faith, what a lot of people don't know is a year to the day before she died, she talked about losing friends at school because she was living out her faith and she was living her beliefs. And she started off her journal and said, "It's like I have a heavy heart and this burden upon my back, and I feel like crying and I don't know why." And she went on to talk about losing these friends for living in her faith, but she said, "But you know what? It's all worth it to me. If I have to sacrifice everything, I will take it. I will not hide the light that God has put into me." A year to the day exactly, her last moment was, they knew her from class, the 2 shooters that shared a class with her, and they mocked her for her faith, saying, "Where's your God now?" And her last moment was, one of them picked her up by her hair and said, "Do you still believe in God?" And she said, "You know I do." And he said, "Well, go be with Him."
Craig, it's an incredible, just painful moment in Americans' history. There's now a Netflix film called After Columbine, and they interview you, you talk about the experiences there.
That piece was actually a Pure Flix piece called After Columbine, and I have dealt with some media over the years that have tried to exploit it, and even by focusing on the shooters of school shootings have given them a platform and even inspired some other school shootings to happen. I'm thankful, though, the news media has kind of learned over the years to not do that, that what you place your attention on, you give power to.
Yeah.
But when I talk to students in schools, I talk to them about choosing positive influences in their life. And the shooters at Columbine very focused on a lot of negative media, and they're so media saturated. And so I talk to them, don't give these news stories, don't give all this negativity all your attention and time. If you want to be a person to inspire, be inspiring in this world, choose positive things to place your attention on.
You created an organization called Value Up. I want you to talk about what do you do and how is that helping to get that message of hope to students across America today?
One of the biggest things that I'm seeing with teens across the country right now is kids not feeling like they're valuable, not understanding this inherent built-in value that's within them. It's not based on what they look like. It's not based on what other people say of them or even mistakes that they've made. It's a God-given, built-in, it can't be taken away. And when kids understand their own value and believe that they have this value, they choose things that match that, and they treat others with value. And so my partner, Mike Donahue and I started this, and we have been speaking to kids, hurting kids I have hundreds of kids come up to me after presentations, some that have suicidal thoughts, and we grab them by the shoulders and love on them and let them know you are incredibly valuable. And some of them don't believe it, and we do our best to convince them that they are. I share lessons that I learned from Columbine and my healing process and how do you turn pain into purpose.
I'm grateful for what you're doing with the organization Value Up. So very honored to have you here and grateful that millions of students have heard your message. And my prayer is that millions more will hear the message of Craig Scott and the message of hope that you bring. Craig, thank you so much, very, very much for being here. Surviving a mass shooting taught Craig the value of human life, to value his own life and that of others. The process of healing taught him resiliency, forgiveness, and seeing through life's circumstances with faith. His message today is one that his sister shared in her journals. Look hard enough, you'll always find a light. To learn more about Craig's inspiring program for schools, visit value-up.org. That's value-up.org.